You know how it is. You have a few free minutes, or you're bored, or you're tired, or you can't sleep, or you've got a difficult task ahead of you. The world around us is full of difficult things. Yes, we survived COVID, but now there's political turmoil, wars, climate change, facts and alternative facts. Maybe closer to home there are bills to sort out. Maybe other people have annoyed you or said something hurtful or failed to respond to your latest communication, leading to fears about rejection or FOMO. It's a mess out there, and we have so little control on most of it. And we know that humans hate messes and uncertainty. It makes us anxious. And what we like to do to reduce anxiety is to act on the world, do something, and then we'll feel better. And before that, we need to get information to guide our actions. Even just having that information will make us feel less anxious. We can make sense of what's going on around us. We can plan to act. So we say to ourselves, great, let's go get some information. So far, so good. But what if the information we're getting is consistently negative? Pulls us in to think about even more danger, more uncertainty, terrible things we haven't even considered. Well, you can see where this is going. We're talking about doomscrolling. Doomscrolling, a word born out of the COVID pandemic, defined as a habit of scrolling through news and social media compulsively, seeking out negative and depressing information. And one of the main drivers of doomscrolling is anxiety, as we have described above. If you search the term doomscrolling online, you will see research indicating that 1/3 of adults doomscroll some or a lot. That increases to 46% of millennials and 53% of Gen Z. So if you're recognizing that this is affecting you and making you more miserable, you're not alone. This video will show you how this has happened and how you might start to use CBT to take yourself down a different path. CBT is all about showing you how to hack your brain so that it's working more for you than against you. So firstly, it's important to say that not all use of social media is unhelpful. There's plenty of evidence of the benefits of connecting with others, gaining new knowledge, learning new skills, using social media. But we're talking here of a vicious cycle that can be set up using social media and news sites to doom scroll. Now, a vicious cycle is set up due to two things: evolution and corporate commercialism. So let's think a little bit about evolution. Maybe we're already feeling anxious in general, or a piece of news comes in that triggers anxiety. We reach for our phone to get some information. But stop. We've had brains much longer than we've had phones, so we need to understand our brains a bit more. We saw above how we can easily feel anxious, and in fact, we are hardwired through millions of years to be able to be anxious. Things can go wrong suddenly, and we need to be able to respond. While things that go well normally take a lot of effort and planning. So our anxiety response has a very light trip switch. So I'm always saying to clients, our brains are good, but they're not that good. Our brains have allowed us to do amazing stuff, and it may feel like we are driving a really powerful car when our conscious thinking kicks in. But we are not machines designed top down for peak performance. We have evolved bottom up. So various layers of brain structures have been laid down on top of earlier structures. So within our Ferrari is a Model T Ford, the mammalian brain. And within that, there's a Stone Age wheel, an ancient reptilian brain structure. And evolution has not swept away this old architecture. It's been preserved because our ancestors survived. As far as the brain is concerned, it's doing a great job. And the brain uses these ancient structures first before our clever brains kick in. So we're hobbled by the Stone Age wheel. Inside the mammalian brain is something called the amygdala. You may have heard of this. It's the fear hub. Similar structure exists in reptiles. Imagine a future where AI is designed using a reptile brain inside it. You can see why we get into difficulties if we are using reptilian software. So the amygdala is like our guard dog. If it senses danger, it will flood the body with stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. These get us ready to fight, to flee, or to freeze. Basically, do something. Hit it, run away from it, or stand really still and hope it doesn't see you. All good. Except by doing these three, fight, flee, freeze, these ancient survival behaviors, the body pays a huge physiological price. Energy is diverted in quite a dramatic way. Breathing increases, the heart races, energy-giving oxygenated blood is pumped out from the center of the body, out to the arms and legs, getting us ready to run and hit, and away from the smart, later evolved brain cortex. They reckon we can lose up to 60% of our smart thinking processes when adrenaline comes online. And that smart bit is the bit that evaluates, that weighs things up, that can differentiate subtle social signals, got you that high mark in that essay, made that presentation go well, allowed you to answer well in interview. But the amygdala is screaming, you only need to decide right or left if we're running. So back to the phone. We scroll, we find out a bit more information. Ugh, it's bad news. More adrenaline. We feel more anxious. Now our bodies are screaming at us, fight, flee, freeze. Just do something. But at that point, you're alone with your phone. There's nothing that can be done, but we're pumped up. None of this is your fault. This is evolution. Home alone with your phone, you can't save the rainforest. You can't challenge politicians. But we can do one thing, we can click further, scroll further. So one vicious cycle is already set up. Another thing we like to do as humans is that if we're anxious and we can't act, we might seek comfort from another human being. Child sees a ghost in the bedroom, calls for mum. She calms him down by showing him it was just a dressing gown hanging on the door, and his fear can subside. Well, we're home alone with the phone, clicking and scrolling, feeling worse and worse and worse. And still, like our ancestors, thinking that more information will give us an answer. Information and corporate commercialism. I'm really sorry to say that social media companies have made sure that their business models understand our human brains only too well. But their business models are not to provide outlets for appropriate action, nor yet maternal compassion. They understand about adrenaline and fear. They understand that brains have an innate negative bias. The printed press had a saying that if it bleeds, it leads. We pay more attention to the negative stuff. It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. They also understand that anything that allows us to feel that we have achieved something, anything, will give us a hit of dopamine, that feel-good chemical. Scroll more. Yes, I've read more. I've got more information.
Harley Therapy, the UK's leading experts in therapy and mental health care, right here in London or online.
So their business model is to retain your eyeballs for as long as possible to extract information about you, such that their algorithms can provide you more of the same. A clickbait model. They don't want you to switch off and go and set up a new political party. They want you to stay And they've used that understanding to build in features that maximize your eyeball duration, one of which is the infinite scroll. It is possibly no coincidence that only 2 industries call their customers users: drugs cartels and the social media companies. They understand the addictive potential of adrenaline and dopamine combined. And it's a sad fact that your mental well-being is not necessarily their corporate vision. So we scroll. And by doing this, we miss out on other opportunities that might make us feel better. Hobbies, meeting people in real life, and crucially, sleep. Who can sleep when they're wired? So we end up with cognitive overload, texter's neck, exhaustion, continued anxiety because we can't change any of the things that we're worried about in the first place, depression if all we see is disaster, and possibly the start of an addictive habit. This is not your fault. You're not responsible for evolution. You're not responsible for corporate commercialism. There's increasing amounts of research showing the link between increased depression and anxiety among young people and the rising use of social media and doom scrolling. If you're interested in this, I would refer you to The Anxious Generation, a book by Jonathan Haidt. And there are questions about whether our attentional spans are possibly also decreasing. Okay, enough bad news. The good news is you can use CBT to learn how to hack your own brain. CBT is designed to help people with problematic behaviours. We take it for granted that how you think affects how you feel and behave, but also how you behave affects how you think and feel. So if you want to be using CBT to help you reduce doom scrolling, your therapist would set out to examine your thoughts and behaviours and encourage you to make helpful changes. We're not in the business of telling you that your thoughts or your behaviours are wrong, but we are in the business of helping you sort out which are helpful. There are loads of things that you can do to help with anxiety. There are mindfulness-related videos on our channel that you might enjoy. There are other CBT-related videos from my colleagues. None of my colleagues recommend doom scrolling to help with anxiety. Thinking about behavioural interventions. One useful tool I use with changing habitual behaviours is called surfing the urge, which is kind of how what it says on the tin. It uses these 5 Ds to swerve us away from something that we've decided no longer serves us. So, surfing the urge using the 5 Ds. D, delay. Wait 10 minutes. Does the urge remain? Sometimes it goes away on its own. Distance yourself from the situation and the shiny object that you so long for. Distract yourself by more fruitful activity. Decide on a helpful course of action and determine to put this course of action into place. This structure underpins any suggestions that you might have already seen on the internet. So, for example, turning off your phone literally distances you from the ability to scroll. You know, without your phone, your brain's going to start looking around for something else to do. Brains don't like to sit still. Deciding on a more helpful course of action. This might be anything from planning to use these sites simply to stay informed about the news headlines, or putting a time limit on the amount of time you spend on the phone, rather than just opening up and seeing where you end up. There are screen locking apps available if this seems impossible at this time. It could be undertaking a piece of mindfulness practice as a way of making a pause, or a longer piece of taking the time to come back to the present day and enjoy, savor something in real life. Or maybe even deciding that the news does merit a call to more sophisticated action, and we decide to engage with a political cause. If we don't like feeling tired or anxious or bored, doomscrolling is only one of a million other activities to do. With distraction, I like to think of brains as being a bit like a naughty puppy. If it's learned it can take a manky old sandwich out of your bin, it will do that. But they can be retrained by distracting them by throwing a stick somewhere else, and really pretty much almost anything. One thing to note, however, is that whatever distraction technique you do use, it won't feel exactly the same as whatever feeling the old habit brought you. You might like to think back to any habits that you might have dropped earlier in your life. How did you manage that? Smoking, drinking, biting your nails, cursing, picking your nose. You probably have already dropped a bad habit, and you might like to revisit how you did it. Is this going to be easy? Possibly not. The example I like to give is to think about cleaning your teeth with your non-dominant hand. So for me, my left hand. At first, you're going to have remind yourself how to use the new hand. It's sort of the wrong way round. It's going to be tricky, awkward, and you won't be very good at it, and it will just feel wrong. But if you persisted or had to persist, say because you had an injury, sooner or later this habit would become the default setting. And that's the determination part, keeping on going. Thinking about cognitive restructuring. Behavioral change goes hand in hand with cognitive changes. With learning any new skill, we need to make sure our self-talk is encouraging. You might have noticed that I kept repeating the phrase, "This is not your fault," when thinking about how we might have got into a habit of doom scrolling. Your CBT therapist will work with you to find out what kind of self-talk might be the most suitable to help you. Some people might respond well to this is not my fault, but it is my responsibility. Or maybe, what would I suggest to my best friend if they were being made unhappy with their doom scrolling habits? Or even something as simple as, I can do this, when we're turning off the phone. So, in summary, if you have a feeling that you don't like, you have options on how to manage it. Doom scrolling is just one. If the problem is anxiety, doom scrolling will probably make that worse and add problems on top. If you're bored or tired, doom scrolling will probably make you anxious. This is not your fault. You're not responsible for your evolutionary history or the corporate commercial goals of social media providers. You are, however, not powerless. Like any behavioral change, it can be done. It might not be easy, but it's possible. CBT will help you look at your thoughts and behaviors to design a program to help you get your hand back on the steering wheel.
Subscribe for more insights from the experts at Harley Therapy, and don't miss our next video.